Well, as noted earlier in the show, almost 90% of farmers' income now comes from off-farm. Hardworking people often working multiple jobs just to maintain a lifestyle they believe in. OSU economist Kyle Dean has taken a closer look at what is often referred to as the rural-urban divide and joins me now here in studio. Well, earlier in the show, we've heard a lot of people talking about some short-term trends that are very positive, but I know you've taken a look, maybe a more long-term look.
Sure. So in the United States in general, there's been a movement away from rural areas into urban areas. And since 1969, that population change has been, in 1960, it was roughly 30% of people lived in rural areas. By 2008, that had declined to around 16%. And that's a trend that's been occurring really since the beginning of the 20th century.
And it sounds like these rural areas are not only just competing for jobs like we do across the country, but they're also competing for people.
Absolutely. So rural areas and urban areas alike both have to compete for firms and have to compete for people. You know, the firms need the people to provide labor services. People need the firms to provide jobs. Firms want to locate where they're the most productive, where they have the least cost of production. People want to locate places where they have a great quality of life. So it's a dance between people and firms as to where they're going to locate in both rural and urban environments.
So if we are seeing this shrinking population base, do we solve it or how do we work with it?
Well, there are a number of possibilities. You know, obviously, if we had the answer, we would already be there. But a well-known economist in California has made the statement that he sees that rural area is going to become largely what he terms bifurcated, which just means that currently we have a lot of rural areas spread out across the country, and that those rural areas will consolidate over time. And so it's a challenge for each rural area to determine now what they want their future to be and set up a strategic plan to make sure that if they want to be one of those consolidated rural areas, that they work that in the future.
Now, I understand that many people hearing that, if they're living in a rural area, they would be troubled to think that their town may not be there in 100 years.
Well, and again, this is one economist's opinion, not my opinion necessarily. This was an economist out of Cal Berkeley, but there is a stream of literature that actually goes in that direction. So it's just something to think about. And when you're a rural area, one way that you can try to maintain your viability is work with the neighboring rural areas in partnership. Partnership on services, partnership in all sorts of ways, amenities. You know, maybe if your rural area has the 4th of July parade, maybe you want the neighboring rural area to have the Christmas parade, and you advertise that as sort of a community thing between both rural areas.
So leave your rivalries on the football field.
That's right. We can be enemies on the field on Friday night and partners during the week.
Yeah. How important are services to keep an area viable? And when I say services, something like a hospital.
Services are absolutely important. So again, you're trying to attract people, and if people don't have access to quality medical care, they're going to be less likely to locate in your area. And in this more and more, in the environment in which we live, people are more and more mobile. And so it's a kind of a tournament of competition between rural areas as to where people are going to locate. So you want your location to be attractive.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that technology in any way, I mean, the ability to have, you know, a broadband connection somewhere and to be able to run your business from almost anywhere could help some of these areas become more viable?
Absolutely. Well, let me say this. Technology is sort of an important first step. So it's kind of like economic incentives. If you don't offer economic incentives, you won't get your foot in the door. But ultimately, economic incentives aren't the driver per se. Technology is kind of the same thing. So as we compete for more people to locate to our areas, if we don't have those things that people need and like, they won't locate there. And certainly technology is one of those things.
So it sounds as if while rural areas may certainly have some challenges ahead of them, at least they can affect their own destiny by what they do today.
Absolutely. It requires good leadership, though. It's important to evaluate the playing field, determine where you are on that playing field, and set a course of action. You can't be overrun by the opposing rural areas or the opposing team, if you will.
All right. Appreciate you coming by. Kyle Dean with the Center for Applied Economics at Oklahoma State University.